It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group. All right, we're back for another podcast. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for being here. Today with us is Peter Lawrence, the voice of reason.
Hi there.
We have superfan Chad Jutner.
Hello.
And Eric Schneider, the man who knows nearly everything.
And
I'm also here. Sorry, I talked over you. My bad.
I was gonna say, I know everything about tape and only tape. That's what we discovered.
And I am also here. My name's Kyle Bacher. And today we're going to talk about it just has to work. So whether it's a high-end laptop, budget printer, a tangled mess of home automation, or a process, someone swears they tested. We've all been there when things don't work. It's not just inconvenient, it's chaos. And in this episode, we rant, rave, and occasionally reflect on the tech tools and systems that must deliver, or we drift off topic and just talk about tape. How was that?
Did ChatGPT put that together for you?
Well, I told it a lot of stuff, and then it condensed it down, and I reworked it. And so, yes, I used the tool.
It was a collaborative effort.
Yes.
Nice.
Can we just have a tool we use and not have to announce the tool every time we use it, or do we need a disclaimer on stuff?
Is that where we're going to start? Is ChatGPT a thing you rely on?
AI assist. I use it. I don't have to, but I am becoming more and more reliant on it as my search engine.
No, Peter.
Boo.
Boo?
Peter, this is a audio only medium now, so just shaking your hand and giving a thumbs down is going to translate.
I'm giving a hidden editorial to the podcast team. I'm not, I'm okay with certain things that the AI experience brings. I've not been a fan of searching using it for things. It's too bad at things. Doesn't give me the results I want in the time that I want them. Or I'm better at searching because I grew up in the days before search engines. So I'm just better at using search engines because I grew up and trained myself on whatever tech they needed me to train on.
So Peter and Chad, you guys write code and debug. And so you're living in a world of things that don't work, and then you have to fix them, and then you write more code, and then you find more things that don't work, and then you have to fix them. And at the end of the day, it just has to work.
It does. And then .NET gets upgraded, or Angular gets upgraded, or Java gets upgraded, and you have to recompile, and sometimes it just doesn't work.
And you have a team writing code.
Yeah, which is a challenge in itself, right? Like you've got many people working in code, sometimes writing things the way that you expect them to work, sometimes writing them not the way you expect them to work. They still work. You just expected a different answer.
I used to do this, and I used to be more militant about it than I am today. Today, I'm just, but I used to, in my tools, create style guides for code, right? Like strictly enforced style guides that your IDEs put in place for you. And it helped me know, I want to see everything in a consistent way, right? And when you have a style guide that you can actually enforce, it helps you figure out before it gets out there. I miss things all the time, right? And
of course, we're human. We're working at warp speed.
Well, I try not to be, but there's a lot of tools around what we do, what you and I do, that make it so that when it really does have to work, we catch all that crap ahead of time. And I'm on the opposite fence of you. I'm starting to enjoy the AI assist more and more as, like we said a couple of years ago, the first cut of all of these AI assistants is going to suck. But now that it's evolved I don't know if you guys have used things like Cursor or Windsurf. They're like AI code editors where it's like AI first and then, you know, and then it does all the stuff that editing does with the highlighting and the whatever dependency management. It is getting to be really, really great. To the point where, I mean, I trust it to produce something with, as long as I get to put my eyes on it, that's going to actually achieve whatever outcome that I'm going for. Now, I'm not able to use it during the day. I still have to kind of manually do a lot of that stuff. But for all of my extracurriculars that involve coding, those tools now have become a a necessity for me to be as productive as I am with that. Like
Have you gotten to be a better coder, or are you
yeah, a
a
little.
worse
Well,
coder?
no, probably we're probably about the same. I've never been good. I've been competent. Um, but the thing that these do for me is, for even for my extracurricular projects, I used to skimp on like writing unit tests and writing blah blah blah, right? Like
That's true. Yeah.
that stuff now with AI and everything else, you could just like right click on methods and like, hey, generate a unit test for me for this. And then you tweak it and you're golden. It brings production quality code to off hours project that you might not have gotten otherwise because you were just like, you're on your free time and you just want to see cool things work.
Yeah.
So,
and
Eric, in your role, you have a different set of problems to solve.
Yeah, because I've been plucked out of, coding on a daily basis, but in my current role, I'm like, I'm trying to slice through the jungle ahead of people. And so what I find is it's really useful to basically do a spot check of like, I know that a developer is going to need to write this or do something against this in the future, but instead of like wrangling up a developer to do the research and find it, it's a nice spot check of, hey, let's assume this environment. What would like write me some code that solves this problem, and just to have it spit it out, just to see just to get a gauge on how straightforward or unlikely that is for a developer. And obviously I got to validate what it's generating because, I've had my fair share of it, just imagining endpoints, methods, UI stuff that doesn't exist, but it is nice to see like, oh yeah, like this is covered. You just pull this package in, it's a couple lines of code and you get there, versus it like going halfway around the world to work around the fact that there is not a convenient way. So it definitely has a place. I said it would take me probably weeks to get an answer from a human, and I can get an answer in seconds, right? And validate in a few minutes.
So, what happens when the stuff you put together doesn't work?
And we solve it at the time, but it's got a fairly good success rate. So, but a lot of what comes up is just questions we just neglected to answer. Like you do a proof of concept and there's one of a thing, and then someone comes back and is like, what if there's 7 of this thing? And it's like, well, we didn't go a layer deeper on the organization, right? So that's the stuff that tends to come up for us.
I feel like I have it worse than all of you because when stuff that I work with doesn't work, I often have to call tech support from these service providers or hardware. And that is, I'm starting to like chat more and more for tech support versus going through a call system and putting tickets in that way, talking to humans. It's like if I can avoid talking to humans on the phone and I can chat with them or something that's pretending to be a human, that's easier.
do you get around a call tree better that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the kind of the whole time. And it's easier for me to have that little chat window up and kind of be doing other stuff and keep an eye on, when I'm going to get a response, stuff like that. When the stuff I work with doesn't work, it's affecting me and it's affecting our users, and that's always has a cost to it. A cost to employee experience, frustration, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, you don't get called in unless something doesn't work, really, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, my laptop, my J key doesn't type anymore. Can you make it work?
Yeah.
Well, if you hold down the Alt key and type 0, I'd guess at the ASCII code, but I don't remember it. Then it'll type a J for you, and you just copy and paste that wherever you need a J. It'll be a piece of cake.
It's
I've had,
amazing what
I've
kind
had
of
people
just
say like if they need the E with the accent on it, they just religiously they'll just go to the Beyonce Wikipedia page and just copy it from there.
it's easier than pulling up that special character thing. What's that
Yeah,
called?
character map.
Yep. Yeah.
I feel like I could learn to type it better, um, but but going back to that, like it's just got to work. Does the thought that it just has to work, or that it has to work well, or what are you thinking when you hear those words? It just
Well,
has
that's
to
just it.
work.
What does it mean for something to work? So if I design an app and it does everything that they wanted it to do functionally, but they don't like the front end, it doesn't work the way they do. Um, it's like when developers build stuff and that doesn't get QA'd and things like that. I
Has
don't
no
have a QA
UX
team.
design.
UX design doesn't have that. It's like, then it's, if it's a bad user experience, to me, that's something not working.
Well, and we've all done that, right? I assume maybe Chad and Eric, you guys have been lucky in your life that something that you designed in one particular way met with contact with the users, and they you watched them do something in front of you that you had no idea that they would ever possibly try to use your app that way. And it just fails because step one is do this simple thing, and that simple thing was your step two, but they need it for first before they go on. And so now you have to rework something, right? And you just have, yeah, that's constant. That's the beauty of UX design and UX going out and doing all of those interviews and things like that. You don't get those mistakes. You catch those
But
mistakes early on, right?
and a willingness to like improve beyond the 1.0 also. Like a lot, I've worked on a lot of projects where the roadmap and everything is about getting it launched, and then no thought is put into beyond that point of well, now you're going to that's going to go into an app store, it's going to get reviews, and there's going to be people with problems, and if you're willing to continue on and address those problems, then it'll be a positive feedback loop. And not for stuff that I've made, but like some of the best mobile apps I've seen are ones where my daughter was using them when she was very young, and it was very clear in some of those apps that they had actually tested it with real children, because it allowed interactions that I would have never thought possible, but it handled perfectly because some child tried to do it. They saw, wow, it would be nice if you tap that and something happened, because children keep doing it expecting something to happen. And
Fun.
that stuff's really fun to see, because that a lot of thought and acceptance of feedback and whatever went into that.
Chad, you ever release a product and to the market, or release something that somebody else called MVP, but you weren't ready to call MVP?
Um, um, no, no, because uh, the times that I was not able to make that call, um, I worked really, really hard to get it to MVP status.
To
So
get it
if that happened, and it
to
probably,
your MVP?
yeah, I think it happened. I did a very, very early iPhone app, like native iPhone development for a company locally, and I don't know, I don't trust that it was ready to go. Um, and I worked with another consulting company to get this thing built and delivered, and it was 2 weeks prior, it was not. Like they're like, no, we're going, it's fine as is. And so we went a little nuts under the covers to actually make it Because I mean, I always just assume that these things have my name on them in some way, shape, or form, right? Like even though
Right.
it's the company's name, it's got my name on it. And so something getting out there and getting just panned, I would have a hard time not taking that personally. And so rather than that happen, and it's not often that I'm building applications for just the general public to consume, right?
But
A
even
lot of
even company apps have an MVP sometimes, right?
they do, yeah, and those are almost worse, right? Because the people that get upset about that MVP not being ready to go can walk over to your desk and like make you
They
feel
can show
bad.
you how it's not viable,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's happened. It's happened once or twice, but um, not probably not in the way you're thinking.
No, but they, that's like, okay, yes, you're right. That's not available yet, but if you do these other 3 longer steps, it kind of works the same. And we figured that was viable for the next 2 weeks until we got our next release, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, MVP is a struggle, I think, for everybody, really. Like the definition of viability should be established early on in a project, and it's never established until the deadline meets the development cycle and it says this is viable. We can do everything we need to do with it.
Yeah,
Who's
but even
qualified?
even when that happens, though, often there's a lot of concessions along the way, right?
Right. Always.
Prioritize and try and draw a line somewhere within that list.
Yeah, and how do you determine and who gets to sign off on what the minimum viable product is?
Well, ideally the whole team does, but yeah, there's certainly times where the VP of this or that may make that choice, right? Like, we need it today. It's viable. Now go
Yeah.
and make it happen.
Yeah, this doesn't really work the way they need it to. They have to do all these other things, and it's just they're not happy with it. Well, I'll just tell them they have to do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you work hard for the next release to make it so that it works the way that the users were expecting it to work.
You kind of
And they
sneak that in.
didn't have to suffer for 6 months with a minimally viable product.
Kind of reminds me of minimum system requirements. Back when I did more hardware stuff, server end, you're scoping this stuff out, and of course they want to spend as little money as possible. So, yeah, I was looking at the minimum system requirements, and it only, it says it only needs 4 gig of RAM and 1 core. So let's just do that.
SQL Server
Yeah.
loves that. They
And
never
you're probably going to put it on a server that has 8 gigs of RAM and 89 other applications already installed, right?
Yeah. And then what's the world going to be like in a year? Like after a few updates and
Sure.
things like that. Yeah. Well, they build software that'll work with kind of the technology of the day. And so if things get more powerful, they'll make it do more. They'll use up whatever resources they can. So I think I've gotten fairly good at dealing with tech support people. And because I'm in the same role kind of, and
through practice.
I used to work in a help desk, so I kind of understand the kind of that whole system and how it works, and how it's way better to be nice to people until it's not, and then you have to have a more firm hand, I think, but you should still be nice about it.
Yeah, and this is a good example of where like your like certain things can be your hobby and certain things like your job, but you but it might be better because it's one of my like unofficial hobbies is calling the support like line for companies just to see what happens. It's when I have like a genuine problem. It's not like going to impact me one way or the other, but I'm often curious just like what companies would do in this circumstance, and it's always very revealing because some companies are just turns out that it's just so amazing. Engage with their support, they do everything they can to help and all that, and often not, but yeah, but it's a fun lark for me and not something I would want to deal with professionally though when like the stakes are high, right? Like you're dealing with.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a gamble. You go through all these hoops and frustration, and you talk to a lot, hand it off to 6 different people, and they all ask you to re-explain everything. But then you get to the guy that knows, and oh yeah, that's just this. And it's like, can you just answer? Can I have your phone number?
Yeah, I did.
No.
I did have that once professionally where we were dealing with a hosting provider, and they set us up in a region that was geographically not very close because it turned out they didn't have the capacity in the nearby region, but we were assured it was not going to be a problem, and it was a big problem. And yeah, we and they had various very like formal levels of support like L1, L2, whatever, and we got to the level 4 guy. And yeah, that guy came in and was like, this is why it's happening. This is why it's not viable, and just like laid out the law to everybody. It was actually great to see somebody who knew that much about networking and the depth of it and everything. It was fascinating.
This is why you're seeing a little latency when we bounce the signal off the satellite and back down to our other site. It might take a little longer than the direct call to the site 20 miles away.
Yeah, well, he ended up like indirectly solving the problem because it was something I didn't realize about networking, where when like you open the socket, like there's an assumed size that like TCP window is a certain size, but it can stretch where if both ends of the connection support this protocol, it can get bigger. And so when you're dealing with something like that where it's far away, where you have enough like throughput but not enough latency,
right?
Then if you make the window bigger, the overall connection is much faster. But both ends have to support it, and the software we're using on our side didn't. And so I buried it in a term like an SSH like tunnel, like I wrapped it, and then it was fine because that supported it.
Funny.
Yeah.
And I was able to talk fast enough.
Yeah. So we just had to have a persistent tunnel, and then the local connection didn't support it, but it didn't matter because there was good latency.
Right.
And yeah, and SSH does support it, so problem solved. But yeah, it took till the L4 guy to get there.
Yeah, I learned to avoid like brand new, cutting edge, first edition, right off the line products, and also stuff that's on clearance. They're blowing out the door, because I've been bit by that, where it comes to me and it has problems. And what I do now is I don't fix new stuff. I will not spend that much time fixing something that I bought brand new. So I will send it back most every time.
Right.
Unless
which
it's
is
the
nice
only thing.
Except for when?
Except for the what is that? The hybrid meeting device.
Oh,
that was a nightmare. That was, oh my gosh. But at the end of the day, the company bought me a new one from one of their vendors at retail. Yeah.
Nice. And it works great, right?
It does. Yeah. I got to write up some instructions for it and all that, which I have been needing to do for several years.
You just have to be there every time. That's all. No big deal.
I usually am, but yeah. Like, would you buy a brand new car that was like the first version of that model, like the first run of Cybertrucks? Do you want to be the guy that gets that early, kind of release of something?
You're the one where the pedal got stuck under the dashboard.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to be. I'm okay being the first Ford, Chevy, or something like that, because I know that their turnaround cycle is so slow. But something where they are more bleeding edge. The electric car industry seems to be a little pushing those envelopes a lot faster, and they're going out with MVPs, man. They're minimal viable cars. They go forward, they go back, they stop. Doors open usually.
Yeah, I mean, I rented an electric car from what was otherwise a luxury brand on a trip. Just that's what they had, and just because I haven't had like experienced the EV life, so I was like, oh, this is a good. Just I could do it for a week and see how that goes and see how charging works and all that. Especially when I'm not going to have a charging station at home, so to speak. So
Yeah.
how do you manage when you're on a trip? And yeah, it was like the interior of that car was, you could tell, like, well, they needed it to be a similar price point to the gas version of that car, and they cut every imaginable corner to keep it at that price point. So yeah, there's definitely a give or take with a new technology like that, where they have to take away in other places that what you would expect.
So after that experience, would you buy an electric car?
Yes, but the trouble I'm personally having is they're target. It seems like a lot of the brands are targeting the real high end, right? So that's like the Cyber trucks and the other like real high, or like especially the newer brands where they're coming in at that top price point and then working their way down, or from the bottom up, right? It's the smallest little shoebox car, and I live in the middle, right? Like my garage is only so big, but I also need a fairly practical car for like hauling lumber and stuff for my hobbies. And so I'm like in a mid-size that doesn't seem to really be like catered to at this point for on EVs. So yeah, I need that middle to get filled in a bit.
Not very many electric minivans.
Yeah, no electric minivans. No, I mean it's like mid-size SUV is what I have now. I mean, I was a wagon guy forever, but they're so unpopular now that you could still get them, but it's like I hesitate to buy a car that, like, I go on Auto Trader and there's like 5 of them in the entire country for sale. It's like, okay, if I need a part, it's going to be hard to even find a part for this. So
Yeah.
I kind of grudgingly accepted the mid-size SUV world now because there's 50 million of them within a block of me. If I need to steal a taillight off of it or something.
Peter, VW just came out with a new electric minivan called the ID.
I know the ID is out there.
It looks amazing. I do have I bought a car that is, I think, an MVP, a minimally viable car. It's very old. It goes forward, it goes backwards, and it requires a lot of work. I picked it up from the shop. Speaking of things that should work, that have to work and don't, I picked it up from the shop late yesterday and spent hundreds, if not, spent some money on parts for this thing, and got it back, and we had a little rainstorm, and engine ran great, steering worked great, everything that I wanted to fix was great. Went to turn on the windshield wiper, and she doesn't work. Not even close. Didn't even attempt. I didn't even. Yeah. So
our drivers will only drive in the sunshine. That was their MVP.
There's things in a car that just have to work. Otherwise, you're putting yourself in danger. You know, steering, brakes, tires, visibility.
I'm a little nervous. This car has the headlights that are sunken. They flip over, right? Like they're, and they've worked before, but I am nervous to drive it in the dark now because the one time I actually need it to work, I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull the thing. They're supposed to flip up, and they're not going to. So you're right. This is going to be a car that I drive on nice, bright, sunny days. And
but that's the funnest time to drive.
It's a convertible, isn't it?
It's got T-tops. Yeah.
Okay. I had a Pontiac Firebird with T-tops. They're cool. I like them.
Yeah, it'll be fun when it gets a little tiny bit warmer out. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things in your car that you really do need to have working. And
Yeah. So did you buy it as a project car, or?
I bought it knowing that these are things that you sink money into almost nonstop.
Yeah.
I was lucky that the guy I got it from did fix a lot of things for me at almost no cost. I picked up the tab on some parts and stuff. But at this point now, it is 100% my car and my problem. And so everything that happens from here on out, we are going to yeah, luckily I've got a close friend, who likes this particular car and who has offered numerous times to help me work on it. So
Nice.
going to be making a lot of trips down to Inver Grove Heights. Hopefully under the car's own power and not on a trailer, but we'll see.
So I'm guessing that you bought a Corvette.
I did. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Sweet.
It's pretty old. I'll bring it into the office. I think I might drive it in next week. I'm not going to drive it into the office frequently, but I might swing it through once or twice.
I hope it's nice and sunny for you.
So far, my luck has not been great with that.
So, you know, we talk cars and many, many things. Eric, you did a really fun presentation on things like duct tape, WD-40. You had a list of things that you had some criticism of and some alternatives.
Because on the consumer product front, there's definitely times where companies bring out a new product to fix a problem that doesn't exist and just make it worse. And there's times where it's the opposite. Like there's products, there's consumer products I've consumed in the last couple of years that are the opposite, where it's like that it's a huge. So I don't know if you guys have used Dawn Power Wash, which is like it's like if you're washing your dishes at the sink, right? So it replaces like the Dawn, like just the squirt bottle Dawn, but it aerates it, like it foams out of the nozzle or whatever.
Yeah.
But like it's one of those things where like there's nothing wrong with Dawn. Dawn's a perfectly good product. It's great at what it does and no complaints or whatever. But they managed to come up with a product that is so well thought through. The packaging is well thought through. The ecosystem around it's well thought through. It just works better. It's so wonderful, so joyous. But yeah, Kyle, what you're talking about is the products that but it's hard to tell because like a product can come out and they'll put all this marketing around it. There's all this hype. And some of it is like things that are in the like just part of our culture. Like WD-40 is definitely like a part of our culture and well known, and people just use it because it's popular or they grew up knowing about it. And those products are not always good. And some people may not even know like that there's a better version of it out there, right? Like the thing that the industry that like professionals would actually rely on is not the same as what the consumer version of it is. So yeah, it's interesting. And actually, that was like I was trying to think of this topic up front, and it started like thinking through products I rely on and all that. And it kind of came down to like two major categories. Is there's things I rely on that like I very consciously give credit to. Like if I take out like certain tools, use them, they work perfectly, and I put them away and I say thank you, like thanks for everything you did great. way to go, buddy. And there's things that like I use on a daily basis that I give like no credit to whatsoever. I take completely for granted. Like the shoes I wear is a good example of where like I never even think about my shoes until they eventually wear out and realize like, oh, I've been wearing these shoes for 3 years every day. They never gave me any problems, never thought about them. It's like totally utility and whatever. So I don't know if you guys have similar things like that where like examples of things that you rely on that you just like very consciously versus unconsciously, because it was kind of surprising to me like trying to sit down and list it out.
Well, I'll give you one fun example, homeowner style for you. Garage door opener and garage door. We moved into our house. We had a new garage door put in, or new garage door opener put in. And it was fine. It was, it did whatever. It opened the garage door, it closed it. But it was loud. It was so loud. And I worked on so many parts of that garage door opener process to try to make it quieter, right? I just went through the whole thing. Little bit of grease here, no WD-40. I got some white lithium and other things like that are recommended for garage doors. Nothing seemed to help. So one day the garage door opener breaks. Just the little gear gives up, snaps off, and says, "I'm done. Replace me." So we did. And we got a nice belt-driven garage door opener. And you can now not tell if the garage door is opening or closing or moving or stationary or any. It's so much quieter. And
Is that good?
that was the fix I was searching for this whole entire time. I mean, it was to the point, like having young kids, I'd have to park outside if I had to go to work before they would wake up because the garage door opener would wake them up. And as fun as it is when you're going to work, it's not so much fun for the person not going to work. They would prefer to sleep in a little bit. So,
And then when they get to the age where they can sneak out at night and take the car.
That was the installer's discussion, was that this is going to be so quiet that your kids will be able to sneak out without any problem.
Okay. Sort of a related story, like on that vein of like taking the garage door for granted, is when we bought our house, there's two separate garage doors, and one of them, the garage door opener worked perfectly, no complaints, everything's great, except two doors down, their button was the same as our button. And so a lot of the times I go to work and then I come home and our garage would be open because he came home sooner, and and there was no way to change, like it was an old enough model where there was no reasonable way to like change the frequency or whatever. It just was what it was.
No dip switch settings change.
Yeah, no dip switches, not the computerized. It just was what it was, and there was no way around it. And so yeah, I ended up having to like take down that unit and replace it with a different one simply because like there was no way around it. And then never thought about that garage door opener since, honestly, since I replaced it. But it was just one of those like daily frustrations, every day. And actually, when I did that too, that was one of the biggest upgrades I did to my house is because it was two separate garage openers. When they installed them originally, I had to walk through the garage is dark in the morning because there's leaving early enough in the winter. I have to turn the light on, which the switch is inside the house, go halfway across the garage to open the garage, hit the button to open the garage door, go back into the house, turn the light off, and then go back and get in my car and leave. And so when I installed the new one, I took all the time to like run another like the cable button all the way over to the door so I could open it and hit that button, and then it would turn the light on the thing and I could just walk across. It saved me that extra little jog every day. And such a little thing, but I feel happy every single time I push that button that I took the couple hours it took to install that.
Nobody did the UX talks to find out what you really want in a garage door opener. Do you really want the button across the entire stall, or do you want it just right by the door when you walk out?
How do you not put it right by the door?
Well, and arguably in my case, you need both. Like there needs to be a button near the garage door on the inside, but also by the like door into the house. Like, cause I use both. So I'd be frustrated either way. Right. So it was really a matter of, I think like whoever installed it was like, well, it only came with 15 feet of cable, so I'm just going to put it here. Not realizing that there's nothing special about that wire, right? It's just, you can put any wire and patch it in to make it longer.
I think all right. The point.
Yeah. So MacBooks fit the description of it just works.
Yes.
Better than PCs.
I've found that to be the case.
Yeah. And there's PC people like me willing to live in that world, and they have gotten way better and way more reliable over time. But there's also Mac people, and the bigger factor between outside of the the work factor, the fact that it works or not, is the user experience, user preference. Like a PC just won't work for most graphic designers, even if it functions properly. Even if every application you can run on a Mac, you can run on a PC. Um, I did a study a long time ago because I was directed to get rid of all the Macs and replace them with PCs.
Wow.
And can we do that? So it was like, okay, we have a big design team. And I did research. I talked to Adobe. I talked to Microsoft. I talked to a lot of people. And at the end of the day, it was, yeah, we can. All the same stuff will run. We can absolutely replace them. But we're also going to have to replace the design team because they're all going to quit.
Yep. I mean, there's something to be said for a Mac versus a PC. I use them both. I use them every day, both of them. It takes a little getting used to switching back and forth, but yeah, I certainly have. I've told my wife, I've threatened her, like, I'm going to switch you over to the Mac side because it's just easier.
You had a really good point. You enlightened me years ago on the difference between Microsoft and Apple and why the Macs are more reliable. And you said Microsoft is a software company. Apple is a hardware company.
Right.
So Microsoft has to play well with all sorts of different stuff and drivers.
All the hardware.
Gadgets and things like that. So they've got a bigger challenge when it comes to that stuff. So,
and I'm not on that. I don't have strong preferences either way, but I'm guilty in other places. I'm gonna ride the Xbox platform into the grave if I have to, because it's clearly not the one that's winning. But I don't care because I don't want. I don't understand. I have a PlayStation 4 that I literally won at the arcade with tickets that I've played one game on, but I cannot get my head around the menus and all that stuff. So I'm like, I can't even with that platform for some reason. But it's clearly the platform that's going to win at the end of the day. So at some point I'm going to have to grudgingly switch, but
yeah, what horse do you back? You know, like, are you Imperial guy? Or are you a metric guy?
WinDV? No, what was the DVD versus
HD DVD versus Blu-rays? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't even remember them anymore.
Yeah, and that actually that divide ran deep because like Microsoft backed one of the they were winning on both sides because I think their codecs got used on both of them, but on the hardware front, like they tried to standardize an HD DVDs for the Xbox platform, and Sony went with Blu-ray, and we all know how that one turned out. And actually, I think Sony ended up selling a lot of PlayStation 4 simply because it was the cheapest Blu-ray player at a point.
Right.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's absolutely right. I made a huge mistake and didn't learn my lesson, and then I made another huge mistake, and it was I've bought 2 Microsoft phones in my lifetime.
Oof.
And I paid the price. The second time I got one, because I was doing SharePoint work. I was in Microsoft land, and they were coming out with apps for the phone. And I thought, well, awesome. I will have the early release. I'll get the best of what they got. And they, in their wisdom, they looked at the numbers and said, we should probably roll out apps for the iPhones first and then Android. And then we'll get to our own stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's when I switched to Android, and now I'm probably going to buy an iPhone.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's the camera.
Getting into the Chad land of Apple products.
I know that at some point I'll have to use a PC. I'm sure I won't be this lucky all the time.
No.
I'm not looking forward to it, though. It's been, goodness gracious, 15 years, I think, maybe longer since I've been in the PC world.
You're going to have a hard time copying and pasting for the first month.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, the big change is they moved the start menu to the middle. That's
But
about
you can
it.
move it to the left.
Yeah, you can change it if you want.
Just for context, my last PC, my last laptop, my last ThinkPad had Windows XP on it.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
last time I used a PC, and
Yeah.
I'm expecting maybe the interface has gotten a little less Fisher pricey, maybe.
Yeah, the color scheme is different, but if you on every control panel, if you hit like the advanced
Oh my
link,
gosh.
it'll open up the control panel that you're familiar with from XP. They're all still there.
That is the best description of the XP UI I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's
Fisher
true.
pricey. Oh man. All right, we're getting down to about 10 minutes to the wire. How do you avoid like things not working, and how do you get better at making them work again, Peter?
Testing, lots of testing. I mean, in the software world, testing is the unsung, hated hero of software development. I've worked with QA, I've worked against QA, I've worked without QA, and I will tell you the best experience is either with or against QA. It's sometimes fun to have an adversarial relationship with QA. They try to break your stuff, you try to make it so that they can't break their stuff, and the end user wins in the long run. But yeah, it's amazing how much better products are with quality assurance on there. They do the things that I'm a happy path tester, and I know all the happy paths, and if it works for the happy path, I'll try a little bit of negative testing, but I'm not gonna walk into a bar and order a toilet or something like that. I might order a water or a beer or a cocktail, but I'm not going to think to order something crazy. So
That's weird.
That's my take on it. Like, and obviously, debugging skills. I would say that as you get to be more senior, you get super fast at finding the errors, especially when you're developing your code or helping out a junior developer. You get to spot those things that make errors happen. And it's almost, it's hard. It's a hard skill to teach, but it's a great skill to have, I think.
Where would you go to learn to be a better debugger? Is it just you got to have experience?
Yeah, I don't know. Chad, do you have any insight on like tracking down bugs?
I don't. You really just have to be in it. I mean, the thing that gets harder for me, and maybe Peter too, is as you get more and more experience in your career, you don't get to do as much hands-on coding as. I mean, I do probably 10% of the coding I did 5 years ago, even maybe even less. And if you don't do it every day, that skill set kind of atrophies in your brain, and you just kind of lose it. So there's not really a place to go to get better. You have to write things or go to GitHub, pull down a project and compile somebody else's thing and just step through, right? Like setting a breakpoint, all of it stuff. It's not that hard. But like I just had problems this week that made it through the debugger, made it through the compiler, made it through everything. And I'm trying to figure out what the hell is happening in an environment, and it's somebody put an extra quotation mark somewhere. So like you don't get better, you don't realize problems like that without just like having a ton of experience, I guess, right? Because that sat out there for a while. It took forever to find it. It's not I don't even know that it's necessarily a skill set. It's just after 25 years, after more than 25 years now, I've done Eric's job, I've done my job, I've done Peter's job, I've even done your job early on, Kyle. I was a network administrator and a developer and a sysadmin and all these little things. And you can do the combination of that, like plethora of different skills that you pick up a couple years at a time. That's not something you can teach people, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's hard.
Yeah.
I was
Dude, yeah.
debugging a standing desk, wouldn't go up, and I figured out the button codes for the reset and all that, and I didn't think of it. Fran remembered because it happened the last time. I did, though, notice that the right leg was not in perfect perpendicularity to the desktop,
Hmm.
and that was putting some strain on that motor. And so once I straightened that out and I reset it, it was fine. And I'll never have to look that up again.
Until
That's,
next time.
yeah, what's my special power is once I fix it, it sticks in my head.
Hmm.
And then just you get in a mode, you get used to it as you get more experience. You kind of learn the things to look for and things to test and how to test and how not to test 20 different things, like to where you don't know what the fix was. And you kind of go one at a time. And, the first step is it plugged in, and simple things like that. John brought her keyboard in yesterday. It's not working. I start typing and then it waits and then it'll type 3 letters and it stops. And so I pulled out one of my little USB extenders and I said, plug this where the nugget was and then plug the RF nugget into here. And that was it because of the interference from the USB 3. It's all 2 point whatever gigahertz, and occasionally they don't play well together. That's my final thought. Eric?
Yeah, I have a very short story related to this. So I got this caliper, and I'm actually holding it, but I know we're on audio only, but I have this digital caliper right here.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. You open it, the number gets bigger. You close it, the number gets smaller, right? But I bought it for $25 on Amazon like 10 years ago, and didn't realize, it took for granted how accurate and good this caliper is for the price point that it is. Like it's way beyond its value. And I relied on it for woodworking for years and years. And then through not through any of its fault, through abuse of my own, it's like the buttons stopped working on it. And it killed me because I was afraid to take it apart to like try and figure out what was wrong and fix it for years and years. So I just kind of lived with it. If you push the button like 100 times, it would eventually do the thing, and I was just living with it. And but finally my wife bought me a new one for Christmas to replace it, and it was not good at all. But now that I had it, having a second one though gave me the confidence, like, well, what's the worst that could happen taking it apart? So I took the original one apart, figured out what the problem was, fixed it, put it back together, it was all good, worked perfectly again. So but the thing was, I just needed to try, right? I just needed to be willing to actually dig in and try, like take the top off, look inside, and see what was going on. And it wasn't a big deal. And I've encountered a lot of developers in my days. That's the thing, is it's we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas, right? Like what have you done up to this point to diagnose this? And if it's nothing, then you're not giving it a, because I agree with what you guys said about over time you get more experience and you can see
Right.
broader and deeper and have can see patterns and understand more layers of it or whatever. But the only way you got there was by trying it, right, and gaining that experience through trying, and that's so important.
Pushing the wrong button several times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's huge. Like just knowing how to use something. I run into this a lot. It's like it's broken. It's like, well, no, you're not turning on your computer. You're turning on your monitor. You need to push this other button. It's like just something as simple as that. It's like, is it broken or is it that you don't know how to use it? And
explore a little bit. Like if that button didn't do the thing you wanted, try a different button.
Yeah.
Right.
And I find that's a big factor, is there's a lot of people that are afraid of technology and messing it up. So something happens and they get like deer in the headlights and they don't want to touch it. And it's like, go ahead, break it.
It's worth it.
But if you do, based on my advice, I'm not paying for it. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up. I hope everybody's stuff works forever and you never have to call tech support. And I think with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.